And our busy week in Indy continues as we welcome in our pal from PFF, Austin Gayle. And Austin, let's start here. Important stuff, very high-level stuff. How many shrimp have you consumed since you descended here in Indy?
The issue is too many to count.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, there was a guy walking around today in Indianapolis from St. Elmo. He's like, want shrimp? It's like 9 a.m. I was like, you know what? I will do it. I'll do some shrimp in Indianapolis.
So you did it.
Yes, I did it.
I did it as well. I paired this morning, and so I'm still operating on West Coast times, you see from my laptop.
Yeah.
And he came around 8:30 West Coast. I had a coffee and a shrimp. And I did it. And I know I in my heart of heart, I was like, bro, you shouldn't do this. I did it anyways.
Damn,
though.
that is, it's tough to pair that, right? I had iced coffee, shrimp, a little bit of water. It's been a weird morning, man. My stomach doesn't feel great. Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah, listen, I think I can be very transparent. I'm not feeling 100%, right? Like, I think a shrimp coffee combo is tough.
And that's no
especially
slight
at that
to
hour.
St. Elmo's.
No.
You
It's
say yes
fantastic.
for a reason.
It's
you
fantastic.
say yes for a reason, for sure.
But, all kidding aside, a very important week here, a very busy week for the league, especially for us. But when you look at Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler come in, this is their first opportunity together to kind of run this ship the way they want to do it. I mean, if you're them, what do you really want to accomplish over the next 48 hours?
I think the biggest thing, right, is getting a lot of the measurements on these guys that you're trying to, like, separate some of these clusters in certain position groups, right? Edge, there's a cluster of legit talent at that group, finding guys who are the explosive ones, the guys who meet the arm length thresholds that you want. And the same thing at receiver, right? We see Garrett Wilson of Ohio State today measure in 5'11", 183. That's not the type of receiver, in my opinion, that the Las Vegas Raiders are looking for. They're looking for someone bigger. They want someone who can come in and be this alpha one. That's where maybe they're flocking more to a Treylon Burks or a Chris Olave, Drake London if he's available. Like, that's where my head goes. It's like, find the receiver I want in my offense. It's too easy in draft coverage, in my opinion, to say, all right, when the Raiders are picking, we pick the best receiver on the board. It's like, no, you're looking for a guy that can complement the skill players you already have and fit into your offense and have success. I do think that the Raiders won't be, in my opinion, looking at these smaller receiver types unless they're running blazing 40s and they want vertical stretchers. I think they're looking for a guy to come in to be this alpha one, especially if they don't add one of those guys in free agency.
It's interesting, too, because you look at this team, a team that went to the playoffs a year ago, but obviously, turning a new leaf, going ahead into 2022 with Josh and Dave and their collective staffs. But you look at them offensively, and you feel like, at least the fan sentiment is like, we just need one stud wide receiver.
Yes.
A little offensive line help as well. And look, no one is a perfect specimen at this time of the year, but like, you get one stud wide receiver, and all of a sudden you feel like this changes things really, really dramatically for the Raiders.
100%. I think Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network, had a really good tweet coming after the Super Bowl saying, to build a Super Bowl competitive team in today's NFL, you don't need a receiver, you need multiple offensive playmakers. And while they do have some talent there with Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, guys that can catch the ball, you need multiple offensive playmakers that you can go to in critical situations. I was at that Bengals game in Cincinnati for the playoffs, and when you're going to, in the clutch, not a consistent alpha one, it makes it that much harder to move the chains in those critical situations. That's where it shows up, right? When you're winning in the playoffs, it's because you have multiple options when you need to get a play. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, obviously Jamar Chase this season. That matters so much more even than having a Devontae Adams, in my opinion. I think Green Bay is still looking for a complement to Devontae Adams. I think the Raiders not only need to bring in that alpha one, a Devontae Adams type that can have that 12, 15 target a game type of cadence, they need guys that can complement Hunter Renfrow, complement Waller. So when Derek Carr is facing these third downs, there's multiple options, multiple things that now McDaniels can do to pick up the chains.
Yeah, and I'm an old man too, where it's like I'm a big, hey, the game is one of the trenches. Give Derek all the offensive line help he can get. Let's, you look at the defensive line from a year ago, right? And big, shout out to Gus Bradley who did a fantastic job while he was here. But you look at Max Crosby, Unique Ngakoue, those guys in the middle. I mean, we saw Max and Unique take that next step, Max
100%.
in particular. But now, listen, you're like, well, if we could bulk up that part of the game, that part of the team as well, things get very interesting on that side of the ball too. So it's an exciting time to be a Raiders fan, no doubt about that. But you look at the cupboard is certainly not bare, but a few things that need to be added over the next couple months to really kind of launch themselves into that upper echelon of teams in the AFC.
No, 100%. I mean, I don't think they can draft for need in this class. They need to draft for value. That's why you target edge players, offensive tackles, cornerback, receiver. Like, you should be locking into some of those high-value positions. And you see some mock drafts having them go off-ball linebacker. And there are two really talented first-round caliber linebackers in this class, in Devin Lloyd of Utah and Nakobe Dean of Georgia. But while that is a need and it's a position that they've been trying to fill for a very long time, attack value, attack a corner in that spot, attack a receiver or an offensive tackle in that spot, because you need to, when you are picking up guys in the first round and have that fifth-year option opportunity, you need to bring in guys that are highly paid, right? You need guys on rookie contracts that draw a lot of money on that second contract. Center, safety, linebacker are three of the lowest paid positions in the NFL, whereas tackle, receiver, pass rusher obviously are up there with quarterback.
Heart of hearts, what do the Raiders do at 22 in 2022? That's a hard one.
So I did see a pipe dream come out in a mock draft on NFL.com from Daniel Jeremiah. Charles Cross of Mississippi State fell to 22. And if he falls that far, which there is a shot at that because he's maybe not the athlete that an Evan Neal or Ike Ekwonu is, or even Trevor Penning of Northern Iowa, he falls that far, it's a sprint the card in situation for me. Because as much as you want Alex Leatherwood to potentially develop into this right tackle that you maybe drafted him for, adding that level of comfortability to stick him inside and keep him at right guard and then give him some obvious like play right now help.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Cross right now is one of the best offensive tackles playing football in college football, whereas Evan Neal and Ike Ekwonu, you're drafting him to be good in 2 or 3 years. You're drafting him to be this all-pro that with the traits down the line. Charles Cross, I think, immediately helps this team. And when you build up that offensive line, I think everyone who's ever had been to a Raiders game or been to a Raiders fan brings up the 2016 season. And yeah, they had Michael Crabtree. Yeah, they had Amari Cooper. But it was one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, if not the best offensive line in the NFL, with Kelechi Osemele, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, Donald Penn. Like they allowed
friend of the program, Donald Penn.
Donald Penn allowed 1 sack this season. I don't need to bring up which sack that was in 2016. Like that was a legitimate offensive line that helped Derek Carr so much, gave him this confidence. And then when you have that plethora of playmakers, a Crabtree, a Cooper in their prime, that maybe not Crabtree's prime, but still damn good. I do think that that's the offense they need to chase, right? Which everyone would say that I need a top 3 offensive line and 2 big receivers. But that won't win in the NFL, and if you don't have that, you're going to be constantly underdogs in these games you should win.
When you look at the strengths of this draft class, what kind of pops off to you?
So I do think at the top end, offensive tackle is really good. The first 5 guys on everyone's board right now, Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, Charles Cross, Trevor Penning, are 4 guys. I think all 4 of those guys have legitimate NFL caliber, first-round caliber type of tape. But then edge is where I go to, and I've had some in my mock draft, some edge talent go to the Las Vegas Raiders and immediately are like, we have Max Crosby, we have Nick Ngakoue, we don't need to do this. It's just an embarrassment of riches at that position in this draft. And if you're sitting at the top of the second round or middle of the second round for Las Vegas, and you can add a guy like a Boye Mafe of Minnesota or Kingsley Enagbare, South Carolina, Myjai Sanders, Cincinnati, just continue to add talent at legitimately the second highest paid position in the NFL. Right? After quarterback, pass rushers are paid more than any other position. Why? They're that valuable to team success. And if you think you have 2, you don't have enough. You need to continue to have that much talent. I mean, you look at what the Los Angeles Rams did with Von Miller, right? They have Aaron Donald. They have a pass rush. Go get another one. You look at what they did at the receiver position. We have Robert Woods before the injury. We have Cooper Kupp. Let's go get OBJ. You need to attack high-value positions with volume. It's not about having your guy or a guy that fills that need. Just keep adding at those positions.
When you look, and I've talked to a bunch of people this week, and it's been a fun kind of exercise to go through, and we get so caught up in the first round for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
I do the same thing, like, oh, we're going to do the first round, first round, right? But then you look at it, and the draft's a 3-day event. It's a long time. You have a chance to find guys. You can find your Hunter Renfrows. You can find your Max Crosbys on day 2, on day 3. So give me a guy that's not going to go day 1.
Yeah.
That's not we know his name, but someone that when you look at him, I don't care what position he is, but someone that excites you later on in the draft.
I really like Sky Moore, the Western Michigan wide receiver.
You're the second person that said that.
I'm a big Sky Moore guy.
That.
I do think that he's not a day 1 type. He's going to be smaller than what people want. He's from Pittsburgh. His favorite receiver in the NFL is who? Deontay Johnson, which is exactly the type of receiver that I think he brings to the NFL. Probably shows up around 5'11", 5'10", 180, 185. But the shiftiness at the route, I mean, at the top of his routes and also at the on press is just so impressive. I was talking to his head coach at Western Michigan, Tim Lester. It's like, we don't have to do much for him, right? We ask him to run any route on the route tree, and he gets open. That's exactly what the Raiders need, man. They need someone who can go. I mean, it's similar to Hunter Renfrow, right? You can ask Hunter Renfrow to run any route, and sometimes he makes routes on the fly, and he's going to get open. You just need more than one guy to do it, right? And I do think that you don't want this miniature receiving core, right, with a Renfrow and a Moore, and you don't have this big alpha, but get guys that separate, period. I don't care how big they are. I don't care how fast they are. If they can separate both at the line of scrimmage and at the top of their routes, they're going to win in the NFL.
And I know that you're essentially preaching everything the fans want to hear. But in terms of that big body receiver too, like we can't forget that number 83 is still there. Darren Waller,
sure.
while technically listed as a tight end for all intents and purposes, Darren is a wide receiver. He does it all. He's that big body guy. He's that guy in the red zone that I think if he's healthy and ready to rock in 2022, which all indications are that he is, but if he's back to who we know he can be, I mean that completely changes the landscape of how you attack not only your tight end group but your wide receiver group as well.
I mean with McDaniels too, and the experience he has with Rob Gronkowski and leveraging a tight end that's that good as a receiver out wide, in the slot, in line. I mean, Rob Gronkowski played some fullback for McDaniels at some points. Like that being that varietous with a tight end like Darren Waller is going to be so important to him having success and being this receiver in a tight end's body. And I also say that it doesn't get brought up enough towards the back half of the Raiders season that he was injured, right? And that was a big reason why the offense did have the inefficiency it did. I think his presence is so important. Hunter Renfro's presence is so important, but you can't have like only 2 players of depth there. You need to continue to add talent again at playmaker. I think if you pair a Waller, Renfro, Sky, I mean, you're getting to a point where Derek Carr, again, has this plethora of receivers. If you can fix up the offensive line too, you're putting yourself in a position to be a top 10, top 8 scoring offense, because I think Derek Carr is that good when the supporting cast is there. When the supporting cast is as good as it was in 2016 or as good in other years that he's been successful, the Raiders can go deep in the playoffs. The problem has been maintaining a high-end, high-level supporting cast.
I didn't even bring up Josh Jacobs either.
Exactly.
In that kind of litany, right? And it's, when you look at Josh and when Darren goes down, Josh steps up. Josh finishes 2021 in a very impressive way and kind of was like, hey, remember me? Like, I can still do this too. So, like, all of a sudden you talk about those weapons. You talk about Darren, another wide receiver, Foster Moreau, like all these kind of guys, Renfro. And then all of a sudden, if you can run the ball too and be effective in that manner behind a nice offensive line, now we're really cooking.
If Josh Jacobs gets an offensive line, I mean, people will be talking about him as a candidate to lead the NFL in rushing. Like, that's how good he is taking advantage of open holes and those things. And with Josh Jacobs, when he's coming out in the draft, I felt that he was one of the best pass-catching backs in that draft class. And he does not, in my opinion, in previous offenses, was not leveraged enough as a pass catcher. I think McDaniels needs to prioritize that. You can leverage, even though he's this big-bodied guy, right? Most people think with the running back position, when you're involving them in the passing game, they're these smaller scat backs. Josh Jacobs' hands, how he attacks the football in the air is so valuable that you want him running more routes from the slot, more wheels out of the backfield, in my opinion, to really leverage his skill set.
Yeah, I mean, he's a playmaker. Get the ball in your best playmaker's hands. See what happens. Put him in space, and let's get crazy. Austin, this has been fantastic. 30 seconds of plugs. Where can people find you?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at PFF_Austin Gayle. Also check out PFF.com. I also have my own podcast called Tailgate, covering all things NFL draft, college football, and the NFL.
That was less than 30 seconds, man. That was
Love
like 9 seconds.
You'll love to see it.
9 seconds of plugs. I'm gonna have to rebrand this. No more 30
St.
seconds of
Elmo's
plugs.
and the shrimp.
Yes,
Crush,
exactly. Everyone's feeling good. Well, hey, this was a blast, man. I appreciate you. You and the PFF guys have been right to our, I guess technically our left all week. It's been really kind of cool to see you guys operate and do your thing. You're doing incredible stuff, and we'll catch you soon. All right, brother?
Absolutely. Thank you.